I'm Carol Robinson. Welcome to this edition of County Happenings, the first edition of a new year, where we're talking about what's happening in the county with the county mayor who knows all that's happening in the county.
I don't know that I know what all is happening.
Well, we'll just pretend.
what a great year 2012 was.
Yeah.
Kind of a different year. We went from very difficult times in 2008, 9, and 10, and 11, and kind of things picked up in 2012.
Yeah, the county's the unemployment's going down. Building permits. Businesses are moving even more. I mean, we had businesses coming all during that time, but boy, they're coming better now.
Each month, through one of the avenues we have, economic development, we send out letters to people who pull their permits, or business permit taxes and fees and things that they have to do that. And sometimes it's a renewal, but oftentimes it's a new business opening up. And as an average, we will probably average on a monthly basis, and we send out letters to them welcoming them to the county. We sign it, encourage them to go to the website.
Welcome back.
Yeah, no, we don't do the welcome. It's just a letter. Don't push this too far now. And encourage them to go to the website if they're an entrepreneur, a young or older person that is starting a business. There's so many things about principles of business principles that you need to. The most dangerous time for a new business is in that first 2 to 3 years. First year, you've got the enthusiasm.
Right.
You've got your back to the wall. You're just ready to go forth.
Second year, you're
wearing
getting
down.
tired of working 24 hours a day and not making any money.
That's right. And most people would tell you it's that third year that can make or break you. And there's all kinds of things that come into play, but one of them are the regulations.
Yes.
Whether we like them or not, federal and state, county, they're there. And ignorance is not an excuse for not filing those taxes in or those forms that you need to fill out.
Or following the regulations.
That's right, filing. And most businesses, probably 99% of them, occur in our city limits, municipality areas, mainly because of septic and sewer issues.
Right. And convenience.
And volume, they call those people.
Yeah.
Having a place out where you live, you might have one a week to come by and see you.
Makes for a really poor business.
Great for you as a resident, bad for you as a business. And even if they could find your place, they need a GPS, if there's a GPS that goes out there where you live. Because they do pipe in sunlight out to your area.
A little bit.
But in all seriousness, we do send that out on a monthly basis and say thank you to them. And that averages about 75 to 100 of those signatures every single month. Now, we talk about, you profile in the papers and the news that you report, the bigger business, Tractor Supplies, is one of the most recent ones that agreed to stay in the county and expand their wings, expand their population base of employees.
And they had chances to go elsewhere.
Oh, absolutely. But it's the mom-pop stores. It's the 1 through 25. It's that entrepreneur that decides, I'm tired of working for somebody, or I've gotten out.
Or I've just lost my job, what do I do?
I've lost my job. Or they've just gotten out of school and they're going to build a better mousetrap, is the expression. And so they give it the
college try.
The college try. And some make it and some don't. But all people need to know the rules and regulations. And just because you can build a better mousetrap, you've got a whole bunch of regulations that need to be adhered to. And so it's been a very worthwhile program. Surprisingly, how many people will call or go to the website, because we can look, as you know, you have a website and people go to it. Well, behind that website,
there's all kinds of information being formed.
That's right. And you can see who's going there, what kind of information they're asking for, what kind of data. It is helpful to our people that study that, without getting into privacy issues and breaking those. But who's looking in our town? Who's looking in our community? And so it's just been wonderful.
Speaking of wonderful and things changing, the chamber has kind of combined all the chambers in Williamson County have combined into one chamber. And our economic development director is now the new member of the chamber. So what's going to happen in economic development?
Great question. And let me back up a little bit, as you know, and explain to people the the chambers, and there were several of them, that it took about a year and a half process. Went through a lot of
2 or 3 years talking about it.
Yeah. And so it was decided, they voted on their boards, they collectively got a task force together looking at the pros and cons and why do we need all the different chambers. And so in October of 12, September, October of 12, they made the announcement that the boards had to vote on it at each of the chambers. Now, I do think it's important to realize that Spring Hill and Fairview, both of their chambers are still in existence. The major ones, the Williamson County Chamber, the Brentwood and the Cool Springs, Nolensville is tied to the county chamber, and Fairview does a lot.
Fairview has always been tied to it. Like
That's correct. But Spring Hill still has their chamber, and
yeah.
they're independent, and they kind of pick up Murray County as well as Williamson County, but they are entering into conversations with them too. So when we say all of the chambers, I want to be accurate. I understand there are people that would say that's not true. So anyway, they voted, have one chamber. And they'll, easy vote.
Yeah.
It's like saying, I want to have a football team, but you got to do something with it now.
Exactly.
And so they entered into an agreement.
Yeah, all of a sudden now it's a big business.
It's a huge business.
Yeah.
And I think it is important, there's so many local businesses invested their capital into making this a reality. I was not involved in that. I didn't think it was appropriate.
Yeah, this is a private, it's businesses, it's a private enterprise. It's really not county related.
It's a 501. They had to have a director. So Jerry Sharber, the ex-mayor of Franklin, agreed to take an interim position to kind of get some of these things worked out. But you got to remember, you had 3 locations, 3 different phone numbers, 3 different websites. Get down into the personnel issue. Yeah. You had health insurance, probably with 3 different companies, 3 different insurance companies handling their property and casualty, 3 of everything.
Treasurers, all that kind of stuff.
All of that. You had monies involved, so you had to have some accounting principles and policies put in. So they brought Jerry on while they were, Jerry Sharber on, to be an interim. He agreed not to apply for the job of a full-time job. He just was one that they sought out and figured he had a lot of business experience.
And had some time on his hands.
And he had some time. He's retired. AT&T, ex-Franklin mayor. So they started the process of trying to interview for a new executive director or president of a chamber. I'm not sure what the title is, and I think they started with 150 people. Matt Largent came to me in the summer and said, I think I want to apply for that. So we had a long discussion.
He needs another challenge.
He needs another challenge. Matt's energetic, great guy.
Yeah.
And I knew that when we were able to steal him away from the Nashville chamber, that it would be short-lived, maybe 5 to 8 years, because he just had so much on the ball. And make a long story short, they got into the final 3. Several of those task force members that were interviewing different people kept saying, he's looking good, he's looking good. And I'm thinking, okay. I know what's coming next. Because he's got that type of charisma that you just want to connect with him. So one late Friday night, 6, 7 o'clock, I get a phone call from Brad Dunn, who's kind of chairing all of these activities, and he's done it. He said he's got the eyes of all the board, and he offers so much. He knows the dynamics. He knows the community. He knows the Nashville market. He knows the Williamson County, Rutherford County, Murray County. He's certainly energetic. He's part of our community. He knows the politics, and that is a big thing.
Yeah.
He knows the business community. He knows
another big thing.
And I appreciate The board, in particular Brad, have contacted me. Matt called me later that night. They had to work out some of the details. So the following Monday we met, and he wanted to know, and I knew this conversation was coming. What would be the opportunities? What would be the possibility, really, of the economic development activities going over and letting the chambers do that too?
Which just makes so much sense.
It does in a lot of ways, but when they asked me that 5 or 6 months ahead of that, my answer to some of those men and women on that task force going through that process was, the chamber needs to do what's best for the chamber.
And the county needs to do what's best for the county.
That's correct. And anytime you combine things, there's a little bit of learning curve, just to say the least. And so is my answer to them, I'm not against it. I think somewhere down the road, that's the direction we need to go. We've done that in the Convention Visitors Bureau 4 or 5 years ago. We spun them out. I think organizations like that do much better not being independently, not being under government's eye. And anytime government can take that responsibility, reduce head count.
Anytime government can do less.
That's right. That is so true. There are certain things that government can and should stay into that probably the private sector cannot do as well, or even reasonable as well, like building roads. There's plenty of people that can build roads, but if you've got a good highway,
you've got to plan them, and you have so many entities that you're dealing with when you're planning with them.
And you can spread those costs out a lot better than just bidding that project out. But there are several things. I think some of our codes and things, oftentimes, I had an interview recently with Brian Corwin, and it's
and Brian Corwin is?
The sewage director here, septic tank issues. Oftentimes people take that when they go in to fill out a permit to expand their house. It can get intrusive. It can get some questions in there. But we don't feel that same way about the electrical inspector. Once your house is completed, you want the electrical inspector to come out to be sure when you throw that switch, things work the way they should be working, and that you're having someone to sign off on that they've indeed connected those wires. The septic tanks are the same way. I've tried to stress over my many years here that the codes department and our areas that require inspections and things like that, we should not be viewed as the enemy. We should be viewed as someone that's doing it for safety reasons. Now,
and a lot of it depends on how the inspector approaches the job.
If you have a heavy hand and you make it demanding,
and don't help the builder or the new homeowner or business person work out the problem.
Yeah. And we do have regulations, as you know, that sometimes they just have to be adhered to. You have to hook the neutral and the positive and the negatives.
Yeah. There's basics that have to be done.
There's some basics there. And of course, from our perspective, when we hire people, we don't need to be probably hiring men and women that are electrical folks that are colorblind. That's not a good thing.
Because red has to go to red,
so
and green has to go to green.
We've all got these issues that we have to kind of adhere to, and it's kind of way with economic development. You're right. It makes sense bringing us back around to the chambers. It makes sense for chambers. Most larger progressive cities run their economic development through the chamber organization. So at the end of the day, Matt and I talked to some of the other people. I have made the decision just recently. We're taking the paperwork to, number one, we have an economic development council that's made up of chamber members, city folks. We have an agricultural representative on there, and Bob Ring, who's a large farm representative, but also ex-county executive. We have a business community element that's put together, and it's required by law that we meet so many times a year, and it has to be documented, and it's really for the benefit of cities and counties and organizations to sit down for Public Chapter 1101, which is the annexation.
Yeah.
It was put in place probably 10 or 12 years ago, that you have to certify your meeting, you have to certify what your the discussion. And so when the annexation occurs, that it didn't, the cities and counties have been talking all along that they don't just.
Nobody's surprised.
It shouldn't be a surprise. Yeah. And so there was a lot of detail. And so on the.
Who'd have thunk so much detail?
Government regulation is what we was talking about. And so on about the middle of December last month, some resolutions had to be taken before these boards, get the approval that that's what they want. Not just because Rogers Anderson, the mayor, wanted to do it. We had it's a systematical approach of getting those things delivered, take it to the county commission. So we're looking for somewhere in the first part of February to the middle part of February to take the economic development department that we know and roll that over to the chamber with the county commission and approval. And they will be responsible for the economic development in our community and in our cities. They will be responsible for meeting those guidelines and those time frames. And we will do this by benchmarking through a contract. They'll have certain requirements that they have to meet on an annual basis, giving a report back to myself, that we'll make it available to the county commissioners. Being sure they're hitting a baseline of activity, what we've been doing for the last 2 or 3 years. Activity, bottom line results, dollars and cents, audited financial statements.
So the chamber is more than a social thing.
That's
it's
right.
now a business, an actual business.
Now, and for Matt Largen, who is now accepted this job as the new chamber president or CEO or executive director or whatever his title would be, he's going to have different elements. He can't just concentrate on economic development, which is where I've learned to appreciate his skill set and his talents.
But he's got so many more.
He's got so many more. So we have currently 3 people in our economic development, about the same size as our television crew here. And they do all of this activity, kind of like our television crew here. They're from one end of this county, from ball games to events like this to meetings. They get it all done. And occasionally they have to bring.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. And occasionally they have to bring in part-time people. That's what economic development has done too. Television crews behind the scenes, you don't see their faces, you just see they're broadcasting out to the public. Matt is much more visible. His 2 other people, they're out there on the firing line on a daily basis. And so I suspect, they've not shared this with me, they have shared some things with me that I suspect they're going to have to bring on board an economic development director within the chamber, because Matt's going to have the entire, if you just look at that rainbow, he's going to be sitting up here, and they're going to have different functions, existing businesses and existing chamber members and activities within the chamber, and I know nothing about chamber.
And the economic development director or whomever isn't just about bringing businesses here, it's about keeping businesses here. So it's
about jobs.
It's about jobs, period. Bringing, keeping, maintaining.
That's right. And no authority will be taken away. You've been around the scenes like I have. Every single deal that requires something with taxes, whether they're federal, state, or local incentives, has to be approved by the governing bodies, whether it's Brentwood, Franklin, and or the county, Thompson Station. If there's any public dollars, and dollars are purchased for land, then that has to be approved. So the chamber, through their activities of economic development, cannot do any of those deals without coming before this board, and through your industrial development board that looks at these things from a financial, and so it's a lot of legal work. But all of that will still have to come here for the final vote, or go to the city, wherever it happens to be. So I really see it being enhanced. I really see that if you, the business person, really believe in your community, wanting to help your community and bring in more businesses, you'll become more and more involved in your chambers, chamber activities, and encourage the growth of economic development. Nashville's done a very good job. Knoxville's done a very good job of doing this same type of model where they contract with somebody to offer those services, and ride, kind of piggyback on some of the activities. They could do 2 or 3 things with one individual, where I was just simply focusing our attentions in economic development for new business.
And what does this mean for the county budget? Because all this bottom line is there's dollars and cents involved.
Under the economic development's budget, which is about $300,000 a year.
And they get that money through the hotel motel tax?
Most of that comes through the hotel motel tax. Actually, it goes into our general coffers.
Right.
And then.
But generally, that tax is equivalent.
We can identify it, and that's. I don't know that anyone has ever just said it strictly hotel motel tax. Now the CVB, Convention Business Bureau, they get 25% of the hotel motel tax to run their organization. That's why that tax was put in. When you and I go out of town, we stay in a place,
right.
That tax, local, and all those city taxes go into.
And that's primarily their job is tourism.
That's
and
right.
that, so it
and
makes
conventions
sense.
And tourism and better business. And so the word business is in there for economic development too. And Judy Hayes reminds us all the time of what CVB activities mean. That when someone's here and they leave behind their hard-earned cash, what that does for holding our property taxes down, and that is so true. Kenny Wallace, Ag Center, was here recently, and we were talking about all the events he had. Well, they stay in those hotels, they eat at our restaurants, and the Williamson County Fair, which you've always covered, that's about a $4.2 million investment back into our community. They shop and they stay here, and most of those are local folks, but they still buy things.
They still buy things.
So going back though to economic development, and I don't mean to take the whole show on this, but it is a good opportunity for it is a bold move. It's anytime you got a new entity starting and you roll these things, but that's who we are in Williamson County, and if we're going to get to that next level, those jobs you're talking about, that creativity out there, and the budget side, I will agree this year, if they go in February, our budgets run from July 1 through the end of the year for the next year. The remaining money that's left in the pot of that $300,000. Now our $300,000 goes for salaries and the paying of paper and you name it. But I will take the remainder of that money and ask permission from the county commission to roll that over to them so they can use it. Next year's budget, I've agreed in tentative form that their budget would not be reduced, but they will be treated like every other 501 that we have. So our 501s that we have now, if we have a 5% reduction in overall operation, if I call for a 5% or 10%, then I'm going to treat my nonprofits the way that I'm going to treat all of government.
Exactly.
Now, they don't like it.
Yeah, well, who does? Government.
The government
doesn't like it either.
The government doesn't like it either, but those are the things you have to do from your libraries, our rescue squads, their 501s, and our other entities, our libraries. I just think if we have to cut back in county government, and you're looking for county dollars, you're going to get the reduction of county dollars just like every other department. Now, the chamber, CVB, all of these others, they do not need to rely and depend solely on county dollars to run their operation. If they're going to do that, I might as well leave them over here.
Right,
The
exactly.
purpose is to open up and you go forth and try to raise other money.
Now, eventually, will they be culled from the county budget?
Will that be?
Just kind of, they won't. The county will start saving
Yes.
You won't be paying them forever.
No, I won't. I've told them, let's give this a window of opportunity, maybe 18 months. Again, we go back to the very thing we were talking about. We've got some remaining money this year, maybe next year funding. And then you've got to make these benchmarks.
Right.
You've got to do this, and this to get this kind of money. Same thing in Nashville, same thing in Knoxville, Chattanooga. There's certain steps you've got to do to get this money. And if you're doing those steps, if you're taking care of that, your budget should be growing from other sources also.
Exactly.
That
So
allows us.
they won't need the
That's
county's
right.
money.
Shouldn't need it, but I don't ever envision we'll totally get out of the business because it's what's good for government in this area too is jobs.
Well, speaking of government and all that kind of stuff, we've only got a few minutes left, so how's the budget coming? Budget process?
We have met very little. We're trying to get all the data from July 1 through 12/31, 6 months, so we know where we stand, so we can put out these guidelines.
So you just got a few more months now.
It's around the corner, Carol.
March, April.
It seems about the time we close one down,
Yeah, you
you
open
get it
the
cranked
other
up.
one,
But
yeah.
Williamson County is that way. There was a time we had kind of a lull around December
Yeah.
and a lull in August. Not anymore.
Not anymore. It's just boom, 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 boom. Housing starts are going up.
Joe Horn, Community Development Director, who oversees our permits. In the unincorporated area, we're up about 18% over where we were in the county area.
Right.
And the cities are even 8%, not 18, 8%. And the cities are even higher than that. And there's pockets, Nolensville and Spring Hill, they just can't continue to grow. So yes, we're going to probably have to be looking at more school growth.
And more schools.
Well, I think the county commission at their November meeting stepped up and did a lot of maintenance issues and some community theaters they wanted at the schools. And they were kind of left with the concept that the schools would probably, the next one would be the high school out in Nolensville area a couple of years from now. So we'll see how it holds up. The growth's still there. They won't hold up.
Exactly.
Excuse me.
Any special events or things going on in the county that we can let people know? The fair, it's got a theme, rock and roll, and here we go.
Yeah, you know, the fair continues to grow. This will be our 9th year. If you're out there watching, you'd like to participate in it, we can use you.
Yeah.
Lots of events. Of course, January is kind of a dreary, cold month. We're coming off from ho-ho time.
Yeah.
Probably some of us are trying to pay for the grandkids' toys.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's just part of it. And we're looking forward to the springtime, the flowers, and it's just wonderful to live in
And the
Williamson
fair is
County.
going to be August.
First Friday in August.
First Friday in August.
Don't ask me the day.
I can't remember. I think 3rd, 4th, 5th, around there.
But
It's still 9 days.
It's still 9 days. We're looking forward to the 9th fair, then the 10th fair. It just continues to exceed our any expectations we've ever had. And this whole community, it just seems like all across, from Fairview to Nolensville, there's an activity going on.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Well, I hope you enjoy and stay warm this January, February, and March. And we'll see you again next month on County Happenings, where we talk about what's happening in the county.
If you're looking for a loan or you'd like to buy a home, when you want to land a job or your identity's been robbed, annualcreditreport.com, the one you can depend upon. Check your credit to review all your bills and payments too. It's as easy as can be and it's absolutely free. Hey! Annualcreditreport.com, the one you can depend upon. Beware of the others, there's always a catch. They claim to be free, but strings are attached. Their ads can be funny, so don't be deceived. Hold on to your money, there's one site you need. Annualcreditreport.com, the one you can depend upon. Annualcreditreport.com, the one you can depend upon.
Annualcreditreport.com. No hidden fees, absolutely free.